The employers that come around our table want to help, want to be encouraging, want to answer questions. They want to help these students find where they want to be.
On this episode of TLC Connections, GT Freeman sits down with Bernard Dagenais, President and CEO of the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. Bernie shares how his career from journalism to leading one of the region's most influential business organizations has been shaped by connection, curiosity, and a commitment to helping people find opportunity. Together, GT and Bernie explore leadership, workforce development, and the importance of exposing young people to real-world possibilities that can change their future. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Bernie, thank you for being here.
Glad to be with you.
I'm just going to jump right in.
Please.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
What is the Chamber of Commerce?
So we are the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. We're the big suburban chamber of commerce in the greater Philadelphia region.
All right.
Interesting because different chambers have different areas of focus, but our members are throughout Delaware, Chester, and Montgomery counties.
Okay.
And our focus is very much on professional development. There's some commonalities. Chambers do events,
Okay.
networking. That's common.
That's what I think of, because I've been to a few events. Yeah.
Right. The degree to which we concentrate on talent attraction and leadership development is a little bit unusual. Professional development, that's really what we hang our hat on, is helping the people in this region become stronger, more successful, better leaders.
So, let's dig a little deeper on that. Professional development. What does that look like?
Sure.
What are the topics? Who are the clients? Are the clients in your network?
Yes.
And who pays, funding? Let's talk about all that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce a little bit more than 15 years ago. And at that time, we had a program called Leadership Mainline that was a couple of years old. Mm-hmm. And we also had a program called the Society of Professional Women, which was about a year old at that time. Both are really professional development programs. Leadership Mainline is teaching people how to be more effective at serving on boards of directors, particularly focused on nonprofit boards.
Okay.
But also they're learning about the community. They're connecting with each other. We talk about leadership, legacy, and connection when we talk about Leadership Mainline. And the Society of Professional Women is helping women to achieve really higher levels of leadership. There's a real gap between who serves on boards of directors based on gender, who's in the C-suite. Pay parity does not really exist. These are the kinds of things that the Society of Professional Women was made to address. But ultimately, SPW is really professional development, and we encourage men to come as well. It's great content.
Okay. You mentioned the events. What kind of events does the chamber put on?
Sure. We have 6.
And can anybody just show up, or do you have to be like a member?
Yeah, but we have non-members who can come. Members have a reduced rate to come, and a lot of our members have packages where they purchase tickets, and they know what they like to do with the chamber. We offer quite a lot. We actually offer more than anyone can really participate in. As CEO of the organization, I can't make it to everything myself.
Right.
But you look at if people are interested in Leadership Mainline, some of the events that we're doing are going to be signature events. We do 6 of those per year: inspirational breakfast, red carpet dinner, Greater Philadelphia Summit on Business Impact and Volunteerism. We have an annual economic forecast breakfast and our celebration of business leadership, as well as a Gold Leaf Award that we give out for women in leadership. So those are our 6 signature events. The Society of Professional Women is typically a series of events as well. That's how we accomplish the mission of getting information in front of people and helping people with their professional development.
Yeah. Well, obviously the name of this podcast is TLC Connections, and here at TLC we the word connections comes up a lot, as well as just choices.
Sure.
And we say that in every moment, every choice and every connection matters. When I think of the chamber, I think of a place where a lot of connections are happening, right? Is a lot of networking happening?
Yes.
Is there anything like you do as the head of the chamber to kind of facilitate like a deeper connection, like just beyond showing up to the
I like that question. So I think, we have a number of events, including, I didn't really talk about just evening networking events that we have where people just come together. But it's really about peer connection. We bring small to medium-sized business owners together. It's more impactful. The networking that is geared around accomplishing something is more impactful than, hey, what do you do? Which is also helpful, right?
Right.
And do we have some sort of affinity? Can we help each other? Can we support each other? That's networking. But we also offer the ability for business owners to be together to talk about how they're growing their business. They're trying to accomplish something together. They're
Right.
trying to learn from each other, a peer learning environment.
Right.
Or our talent initiatives are about companies coming together to determine how they can be most effective in attracting talent and
Right.
connecting with talent from our local colleges and universities, or developing talent at our local high schools. So those people are building connections too. They're not really there to network, but they're building connections with other people who have similar goals. And when you're trying to accomplish something together, I would say that's a higher
Yeah.
level of connection
Sure.
than a general networking event. Both are valuable. Both are
Right.
important. Great things can happen at either.
Right.
But our programs, like our Society of Professional Women or leadership programs, development programs, they are about accomplishing something together.
Yeah. Yeah. Deeper connections often happen like when you're in the trenches together. What kinds of like problems or issues does where some of those deeper connections happen?
Right.
Like what in the business community, what are they trying to solve?
Yeah. Well, you think about, we're having a conversation just this week about early to mid-career professionals and what do they
Right.
need to continue to be more successful, right? There's different generations in the workplace.
Right.
So what do they need? You know, some cases, no one's born naturally as a networker necessarily. Some people are more akin to it, more have an ability to do it more easily than others. But it's a skill that can be, like many skills, right? Like interviewing, or it can be taught.
Right.
And so helping people to understand what's the power of building a network, either within your company or outside of your company.
Okay.
Let's talk about leadership and different skills around leadership and different styles of leadership and how you lead. And that brings us to communication. I always say communication is one of the most important, I think the most important aspect of leadership, where you're learning how to inspire people. That's communication. You're helping people to see a vision they might be able to buy into. Well, there's some strategy there, but it's also about communicating that vision and getting people to buy in, which, by the way, is communication.
Right.
You're reflecting on performance and how people can be more effective. So those types of skills are extremely important. And when it comes to people working for small businesses, right, managing teams, effectively managing teams, getting employee engagement, those are the kinds of things we spend a lot of time on.
Are you working directly with like the leaders of the organization, or is this like an emerging leadership program for like employees of the companies that are part of your organization?
Yeah, great question. So we are working with everything, with the really larger companies. It tends to be people in human resources and professional development training folks that are involved with that. With smaller companies, we're working directly with the C-suite. Usually there is buy-in from the C-level. But when it comes to, I think you use the word in the trenches, in the end, the trenches work is probably not going to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. In the trenches work with us, it's going to be his talent leaders who are going to be with us saying, these are the issues we're having, or these are the skills that we don't have. We can't hire people to do this work. And how do we bridge that gap? What are some ways? And those are things that the Mainline Chamber can help out with.
Talk a little bit about the types of organizations that are, so is it, you mentioned small to mid-size. So what is your typical, like the profile of the typical business? And is it just for-profits? You also mentioned nonprofits. So you got nonprofits as part of the organization as well?
Yeah, we do have a large number of nonprofit organizations that are part of our chamber. We have a nonprofit roundtable that really works on sustainability issues for nonprofits. So think about it, GT, there's a lot of different segments that we serve. So there's big corporations, certainly. They tend to participate in a lot of our leadership development programming. This middle market business growth initiative we launched, we're in our third year with that now. That is business owners. We really exclusively are looking for business owners to be in that room, to be talking to each other, because it can be lonely, right? And so one of the things that has been said in some of those gatherings is no one fights alone. So that's a group, right? And they're all dealing with, in some cases, similar types of issues, like there's a bottleneck around themselves, perhaps, where things can't get done, or they don't have the right team in place, or they're not doing a good job of hiring and training. And these are kinds of information that they can share with each other. So it's a lot of different segments. Nonprofit leaders would be another one, certainly, that we serve as well. And there's hard to say about a typical company, because there's a typical company that comes to our evening networking event, right? It might be somebody a little bit more business development minded with a company. A lot of financial services in the economy of our region, right? When you think about Vanguard and Lincoln Financial Group as companies that are very prominent in our region. We also have strong utilities that are active in the chamber, like Aqua. Essential Utilities is their umbrella brand now, and Pico, active in the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. Vertex, a corporate tax software company. And then we have somebody who's working out of their home, who's consulting, who would love to get a contract with one of those companies to help them with their professional development or some aspect of their operations. So it really is a wide variety of different entities that are members of the chamber. And we try to find a place where many of them can live and many of them can interact and appreciate and get something out of that membership.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I want to talk about the youth for a moment.
Right.
So the Lincoln Center for Family and Youth, obviously, we spend a lot of time with families and particularly with the youth. And we have schools, for example. We have a school upstairs in this building, in fact. Mm-hmm. And we're working with all age groups. And a lot of our listeners also are educators and social workers and counselors who work with youth. And my question to you is, how is the chamber involved in the youth? Because I would think that all these, the CEOs and the C-suite and your mid-level managers, they're thinking a lot about like the next generation of leaders, because they're going to need to recruit over the next few years and decades. And so what kind of work is being done there to kind of equip the next generation of leaders?
I would say among chambers of commerce, we're unusually active. I mean, I'm sure there are other chambers across the country that are working with high school students, for example, but not many are working with high school students in this region the way we are. We have strong partnerships with some schools where it's about experiential learning. It's really where we sit, is that idea of what can you do that will help you prepare for a successful career? What do you know? What are you getting exposed to? When I was a child, when I was a teenager, I just turned 14 years old, I met a journalist and got to see him do his job, got to follow him around a little bit. It was a unique opportunity. Now, I was living on a dairy farm in Vermont at that time, right? So we had just sold the farm, and I got to be my brother's roommate, got to hang around with him for a while. And it sparked something in me. But if I had just been on that farm and never left that farm, then I would have never met this individual. I had a 27-year career in journalism, ending up being editor of the Philadelphia Business Journal. But we really believe that that could be an analogy for what happens to a young person in Norristown, or let's say Upper Darby in Delaware County, who they may not have as much exposure to different kinds of careers. Another thing I remember in high school, the state police came in and talked to us. I remember that. That was those were the two outside world, other than the farming community, that I had interaction with, and they still stick in my head. So it's exposure, but it's also the opportunity to practice skills like talking to adults, learning how to interview, learning how to show up. People talk about soft skills. I think we finally people are realizing they're not soft skills. They're so important, and you see this language showing up, and we've been using it for years, essential business skills or essential skills. How you communicate, how you show up in a room. Do you show up? When do you show up? Do you make the room better when you're there, or do you bring it down? Does someone get energy from you, or do you bring them down? And who thinks about this unless they have the opportunity to interact and provide this exposure? And then, oh, by the way, who knew that this job existed, or that I might want to actually work for an insurance company? Who wants to work for an insurance company? Well, it turns out a lot of people do when they know what it is, what the opportunity is, what the culture is. That's where I think we really help a lot. And it's something we focus on a lot. It's actually our largest program. It's called the Talent and Education Network, which is primarily focused on college students. And then our Jobs and Experience Development Initiative, JEDI, is focused on high school students. And then even at the college level, yesterday I was on an advisory board for the president of Westchester University. And that advisory board is very focused on how do we instill more experiential learning in the college experience for those people who are there, so that when they come out, they are going to be more employable. So to me, I just remember when I was in high school, in college, when I got out in the world, I wasn't a bad student. Don't get me wrong. When I got out in the world, I was a different person. I was like, whoa, this is good. This is what I'm learning this stuff for.
Right.
This is exciting. And we want to provide that opportunity to students today.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest challenge for students today? But also, what is the biggest challenge for the leaders of companies that you interact with in your job at the chamber? Right. And are they similar challenges, different challenges? Yeah.
Yeah, part of the reason that we are so focused on talent is because, think about my operation, for example. My number one cost is payroll and the team that we have. This is most of our money is going to go to that.
Right.
So having the right team, having people with the right skills.
Yeah.
There's national shortages. There have been national shortages of having people who don't fill certain jobs. Jobs are evolving, right?
Yeah.
So on the student side of things, I think that, like any of us, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
They need to, they benefit from having this outside interaction. And on the employer side, they have to engage generally with a younger workforce that's going to maybe have some different expectations. And they're going to have to treat those folks differently and also train them differently, perhaps, in order to have the team that you need. But there are a lot of unfilled jobs and that's a major, major issue. Now, back to the small business owner, I think I mentioned the bottleneck before.
Right.
We hear about that a lot. I fight with that in my own organization. How do I make sure that everything doesn't have to go through me, that things are happening independently? We're getting better at that. And a small business typically is fighting that battle until they get really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back in time again because you mentioned a couple things just a few moments ago.
Sure.
You mentioned 14. It was an important moment.
Yeah.
And then you just mentioned journalism, but kind of glanced over it. It's like 20 plus years or something. Go a little bit deeper into that.
Right.
Tell us the context of that moment and how that kind of created, like you used the word spark. How did that and here at TLC, we call that like the butterfly effect. Yeah. And like in that one moment, that one choice, one connection can result in the butterfly effect or the ripple effect. And you just never know how someone's trajectory is altered in just like one moment. Right. So go a little bit deeper in that. I want to hear that story.
Well, another example of exposure is the power of reading, right? Reading a book or reading a newspaper, whatever, reading articles online, and as well as podcasts, of course, right? Right. And for me, I read All the President's Men. Bob Woodward, Carl Bernstein, they were Washington Post reporters. I'm sure many of your listeners may not be familiar with this book. Right. A movie was made about it. Robert Redford, I remember, was one of the stars in that movie. And it was about Watergate during the President Nixon era. And a presidency fell as a result of Watergate. And learning about that story and how it was uncovered and written about, and there were stories in the Washington Post, it was that spark for me. I was interested in, motivated to make a difference. And so I became a journalist in Vermont initially, which is where I was born.
So was that your first job out of college?
My first job out of college actually was in public relations for the Vermont Lung Association, where I had a communications role there.
But soon after got into journalism. Yeah,
soon after. But my goal was to become a journalist. And so I was freelancing while I was working in this Vermont Lung Association, communications. And then I worked at newspapers in Vermont and in Washington, D.C. before becoming editor of the Philadelphia Business Journal here and having that job for a number of years.
Were you mostly in administration, leadership, or were you like out there like chasing down the story?
Yeah, first I was a writer. I was a reporter. And I'll say reporter more than writer because I had to become a better writer because I loved reporting. The power of being able to ask someone a question, again, that word spark. A journalism instructor put me on a bus, put us all, a whole class, get on a bus and find a story, talk to people and find a story and write about it for class.
Right.
The power to talk with anyone, to initiate a conversation with them, to say, hey, my name is Bernard Dagenais, and I'm a student in journalism at St. Michael's College, and I would love to just talk to you about your life a little bit. And then you talk to a couple of people and say, wow, this is a great story. This person's got it. And everybody's got their story, right?
Right.
And you come back and you write that. And so over the years, I was involved with covering issues that include the prisons in Vermont or state government in Washington, D.C., and Maryland and Virginia. One of the pieces I was proudest of was really evaluating the economic costs of crime in the city of Philadelphia. That was a big package of stories. So, and writing articles that were fun, like about a winery, getting to know how does a winery work and who are the owners, and getting some nice photos and putting that together.
You learn.
You do. You're always learning, and obviously that's a lifelong skill that everyone wants to have.
Right.
When they realize the power of it. But yeah, it is. It's learning by requirement when you're a journalist, as well as in the job I'm in right now too. Yeah.
So, what was the main passion there when you were a journalist? Was it the investigative piece? Was it like learning? Was it writing? I'm assuming it was all of that, but like, was one component of it like really compelling?
Yeah, the human interaction was something that I came to really, and early on, I really appreciated that, and being able to get out, not being in the office all the time, going out and meeting people, going and touring a business workplace and meeting with people.
And where did that come from? Did it come from the farm, like where you were always outside and interacting?
Well, I tell you, the farm was very lonely, right? I'm a kid by myself.
But you are outside a lot.
I was outside. I got to use my imagination.
Okay.
Somehow I was not born particularly shy, so I was pretty comfortable talking to people from an early age.
You could talk to animals; they may not talk back.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure I've talked to animals before. Yes. So it was. You think about what life you want to have. And,
right.
I did not want to be on the farm for my life. It's a great life. Many people, it's the right thing to do. But
you mentioned the other one that you remembered was the police officer. What was it about that interaction that you remember?
I just remember that the point of that is that when I was growing up, employers didn't really come into the school very much. And there's a real power in that.
There is.
So I know myself now. I didn't know myself when I was 16 years old, right? But so because the state police are there and they're talking about tuition reimbursement, and they're talking about what a great job it is to work for the state police and how much money you can make, I'm like, do I want to be a state police officer? Well, it's an interesting question. The answer is no. But it's good that I asked that question.
Yeah.
It's good that I started thinking, where do I fit in this world? What can I do? If I'm not going to be a farmer, I'm not going to be a police officer. What are my interests? What are my skills? Right. And is there a way to make a living doing that? And although journalism is not a particularly lucrative career, I did very well. And by the end, I was doing very well.
Well, you mentioned the power of people coming in and speaking to the youth. Just reminds me of just a personal story. One of my daughters was really impacted by teachers. And if you think about it, the youth are teaching is modeled for them, every day.
Right.
And so if you have an interest or passion for working with the youth, which my middle daughter did, then naturally they think, oh, I'll become a teacher. And that's a very honorable career to become a teacher. When I talked to my middle daughter, I asked her, what is it about working with the youth that she really enjoys? And I said, well, let me tell you about a different type of role. It's a type of role that would not necessarily come into their school and do a demonstration of.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, she's the only one of my 3 daughters that took my advice and looked into that role. And the reason I recommended it was a national shortage of these workers. Right. And so because of my job, I get a sense of what are the toughest jobs to recruit for? I know which ones are easier and which ones are harder. And this particular job was very hard to recruit for. And I told her that if you do this, you'll not only accomplish your passion, but and working with the youth and in a way that you want to work with them,
right? But
you'll be in very high demand.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tell that to a teenager, you're not sure if they're going to listen to you. She did, and she came back, years later after now being in the field. As they grow older, they become more grateful for the advice that parents give them.
Yes.
When they're younger, they don't necessarily appreciate it that much. But when they got older, anyway, she's doing extremely well. Loves her job and is being rewarded financially, and not just financially, but just she's doing meaningful work.
Right.
And she's being compensated because it is meaningful work, and there's such a shortage. And it just, if I think back to the chamber. It's I would love, and I know you already do this, and I compliment for you for doing it, is getting your participating companies to send people into the schools to model those types of jobs for them, just like that police officer did for you.
Absolutely. It's not the point it was a police officer. The point is somebody from the outside who's
Right.
working in the world, who enjoys what they're doing, came in.
Yeah.
You hit on something that I think is really important. And we work with a lot of first generation college students, for example, right? They may not be, probably not from wealth. They're
Right.
taking on a big debt in many cases, although there's certainly financial aid in many cases as well. And they don't have they don't have somebody who can help them the way you were helping your daughter, or I was able to help my children. You know,
Yeah.
the resume of their parent may not be the same. Their family situation may not be, there may not be two parents involved. There are factors that, you want, if you're going to college and you're in your sophomore and junior year, who's going to tell you about internships and help you understand
Right.
why they're so important?
Right.
Who's going to tell you why your resume is not good and what you should put on there because you don't have that much to put on there?
Right.
Who's going to tell you? Because you have these strengths and attributes, you could think about working in this field
Right.
because, it's a broader set of experiences that we're bringing to them. And that's a real difference between a young person who has a parent who is thriving in a professional role or a trades role that they've succeeded in, they've figured out, and a young person who has a small world and needs and benefits from additional guidance. And the employers that come around our table want to help, want to be encouraging, want to answer questions. They want to help these students find where they want to be. And by doing that, that's part of a give back that for many employees, makes it worth going to work. They want to be able to give back to their communities. They want to be able to help out.
Thank you for sharing that. Bernie, I just got a couple more questions for you. You love what you're doing now.
I do.
But at some point in the future, you'll move on to something else. And what is that? What's next for you?
Yeah. I will always be involved in this work, I think, in connecting youth with opportunity. And one of the big conversations in this region, Greater Philadelphia, is about economic mobility. And I will be part of that conversation until I'm no longer serving on a board of directors. So that will go on for some years, right?
Yeah.
There are things that I care about when it comes to being part of this business community, trying to be a positive influence, trying to connect people who can help each other. I'm going to be doing that. I've done that my whole career, and I will be doing that my whole life, regardless of what role I'm in.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I do love what I'm doing, and we are not done. We have a lot to do yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's certainly the truth. I mean, we got there's so much to be done, and I was just wondering if the answer was you want to go back and to become an investigative reporter and start a YouTube channel.
Those were good days, but journalism was very good to me. But no, I'm not going back to being a journalist. Okay. I might write some more things someday. But
well, that leads into the last question, which is about legacy.
Right.
So, what is the legacy you'd like for the chamber to leave behind, and kind of what's your personal legacy that you would like to leave behind as well?
Yeah. That's a great question, and we talk about legacy as part of our leadership programming. And first, I'll say I think it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to think about that. Like, we all have some legacy we're leaving, right? You and I both have the pleasure of having had children, and they may be the most important legacy that we ever have, right? Or how we affected other family members and how we've influenced and helped them. That's part of our legacy for sure. Part of my professional legacy, I hope, will be some of the work that we've started will continue beyond me. And I think, just as I mentioned Leadership Mainline at the beginning of the interview, it was almost not going to happen the first year I got to the chamber. And I drew a line in the sand and said, no, these are the things we're going to do. You have a CEO who supports this. We're going to figure this out together. We're going to have this class. And so now we just launched our 24th class overall.
Great.
And that program pre-existed me, and part of my legacy hopefully will be that it will continue after me. This work we're doing with high school students, I would love to set it up. I plan to set it up so that this work will continue on for years to come. It's important work. It will not be done in the next 5 or 10 years. It's something that business community wants to be at the table helping these students succeed for decades to come. And that's how economic mobility will shift in the region.
Good. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you had hoped I'd ask, or any final statement or words of wisdom?
I appreciate that question and the opportunity to be here. Mainline Chamber of Commerce is an organization made up of companies, right? So we're employer-led. And the initiatives, some of the initiatives we've talked about today, particularly having to do with high school and college students, are also part of an employer-led collaborative. And so one of our underwriters is the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey. We really appreciate their support. But some corporate foundations like the Truist Foundation and the Vanguard Foundation, Essential Utilities, better known as Aqua, Independence Blue Cross, Closets by Design has been a big supporter of this. And then think of all the partners we need in the high schools, right? The career counselors at the high schools have turned out to be really good partners with us in Upper Darby and Norristown. The Lincoln Center has been a great partner. There's a federal program called Gear Up that helps students to succeed currently in high school and prepare for life outside of school. So we get to work very closely with that organization as well. And when you're in the business of seeking to change lives, it's not something you really do by yourself. You do this with a group of people around you, a group of organizations around you. And that's the power. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change lives for the better. And we're excited to be in a position to be able to do that and appreciate all the help that our partners have given us to be able to be in this position.
It's been an honor and pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Great to see you. I respect your work and happy to be here with you today.
All right. Thank you, Bernie.
TLC Connections is supported in part by the Lincoln Center for Family and Youth. Through education, counseling, coaching, and consulting, we empower people to make positive choices, meaningful connections, and transformational change. To learn more, visit thelincolncenter.com.